Let's move on to our first round of lightning talks. We will welcome 3 speakers to the stage. They will be back to back, and the first one is Lisa Tagliaferri, Senior Director of Developer Education at Chainguard, who will share her thoughts on building learning communities that scale with developers. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm going to try to share my window. There we go. Thank you. Cool. So thank you so much for having me, everybody. Today, I will be speaking about building learning communities that scale with developers. That is, how can we build learning communities that support developers as they advance from beginner to intermediate to advanced or professional? We all know that developers are lifelong learners due to the ever-changing nature of software evolution, but how can we as developer advocates and educators support this lifelong journey? So to give a short background about where I'm coming from, I'm Lisa Tagliaferri, Senior Director of Developer Enablement at Chainguard, which is a software supply chain security startup. I have taught at universities, I've written a few books on Python, and contribute to or collaborate with open source projects like Sigstore, which is a security tool suite, and Wilfy, which is a community Linux OS designed for the container and cloud native era. So we all know the trusted formula of learning to code. First, you download your tools and set up your programming environment. Then you open up a text file and write in your hello world code. Finally, you run the code. Of course, it is always a magical experience when your code compiles and runs. And here we see the step through. We'll do the print hello, in this case, the DevRelX Summit. And we save the file. And then we run the code with Python in our Python programming environment. Cool, so magical, yes. But then what do we do? Unfortunately, a lot of coding journeys stop somewhere in the beginning because there are tutorials and education that's at the newbie end of the spectrum. And then on the other side, there is complicated guidance or obscure reference material, which is on that experience end of the spectrum. So it could get tough while people are trying to advance on their developer journey. And we all know that when we are just starting out and installing our dependencies, we could get lost along the way and give up. So what should we do? There are a number of ways for us as developer advocates to build instructors to support developers on their journey, whether it's with a new stack or a new product. I'll touch on a few of these examples here. So there's project-based learning, complementary learning, open source community, peer networks and accountability, and then finally, we'll talk a little bit about how can AI help. So first, we'll talk about project-based learning. Project-based learning is one of the tried and true ways for someone to fully understand what they are learning, as they have to put it into action. The best kind of projects are ones that the developer imagines themselves, but we can give guidelines and example apps to get them there. Here is a great example series by Kathleen Howard that puts this into action, helping developers that already know about Node to learn to scale their apps from containers to Kubernetes. Here, there's a fun example app about sharks, but it can be readily modified to something meaningful for the developer who's working through this tutorial. The series is segmented so that a developer that's just looking to learn one of these things can jump right in if they have the context that they need. Or they could go step by step from containerizing their app with Docker to securing a full application. And we see there's also great little tooltips to do copy and paste of these commands so you don't have to, there's not a lot of friction there. So a full project not only allows a developer to go deep into multiple areas and connect them together, but they have something at the end to show. And this could also help with their career goals, whether it's through a developer portfolio or to talk through their project in an interview. This gives them something that they could take home with them. So remember that pain of waiting for NPM install to complete. Sometimes browser-based terminals or IDEs can help to reduce that friction. And these sandboxes are a great complement to project-based learning. This approach lets a developer jump right into a fully fledged environment, set up for the task at hand, so that they could complete a project without needing to install things first. This way, a developer can just start coding without having to deal with an arduous setup. And here we have examples from Codecademy and Instruct. This one is a homegrown one that Jamon Camiso made for Chainguard Academy. This one is working through installing and getting up and running with APKO, and you could copy and run the code right into a browser-based terminal. And then notebooks are something similar that allow you to run code samples. These could be implemented right into developer content for project-based learning. Here is Jupyter Notebook and runme.dev. Some of these can be integrated right into existing content, or they could be set up separately. Notebooks in particular have proven effective when I use them in live demos and workshops. It helps people to feel good and that they can move forward, which is an important part of continuing the developer journey without them getting bogged down in their local dev environment. Next, we'll talk about complementary learning. So complementary learning is learning alongside the major track or curriculum that someone is following. Say they're following a Python data science track. As those who enable developers in DevRel, we can build demos and other content that includes learning with more breadth. That is, when we are demoing ML containers and pushing them to a registry, we could talk about signing them for added security. When we're demonstrating putting our project in Git, we can include commit signing through a tool like GitSign. And shout out here also to the organizers of Pi Texas. When we have a GitHub demo repository, we could include GitHub actions and show how and why we're using that action and that automation. So in these ways, increasing the breadth of developers' learning can help them understand what is out there, how they can integrate with more tools, and can provide them with direction on what to learn next. So let's talk about open source. Open source is one of the great environments where developers can truly learn in the wild. There is so much code and opportunity that it can be overwhelming. When DevRel is able to curate open source for others, it can be a major win. One example is through encouraging contributors through initiatives like Hacktoberfest. Hacktoberfest is the month-long celebration that's happening now in the month of October. Erica Heidi has labeled issues in the Wolfie repo with the Hacktoberfest label that we think newcomers to the repo will be able to do successfully. And she also included a guide on DevTO to help people get going. Here, we promise to support developers with reviews and guidance to see them be able to merge to this open source project and to have a good experience. Forums in GitHub are often overlooked, but can be a great way to engage and support newcomers. Building an active forum can help bring people in and make it less intimidating. Open source communities that are welcoming and provide easy ways to interact and jump in can help developers advance in their careers and expand their networks. Opportunities for pair programming outside of the work environment can expose developers to different approaches and different experiences. We who are already in those OSS communities benefit from getting new voices into open source and new contributors, new maintainers, new documentation, all the good things. Search tools like SourceGraph and also GitHub Search can also be leveraged to help developers go deeper. When Search has access to a lot of open source code, we can use this to demonstrate how code works out there in the wild, in production. And we can use this to show how to make updates due to end of life or security changes, like in this example with like diff search. And having all of these examples at one's fingertips can empower a developer to try something new. So using search tools can be a great way for people in DevRel to help to demonstrate this. Next, peer networks are a great way to support learning. In DevRel, we could join peer networks ourselves, or we could foster new networks, smaller communities. Having others on the developer journey alongside somebody who's learning or starting out in the intermediate or even advanced levels can help to enable success because they're not going alone. And it can also distribute the support a developer may need as they ramp up. One note network that is notable for developers is Codem. This builds in accountability into peer networks, and Codem matches developers at similar levels so that they can support each other as they grow. Their website is codem.cc. Finally, AI is an exciting way to speak directly to developers. As we know, developers are lifelong learners. They're always interested in the next thing. So among professional developers, according to the Stack Overflow 2023 Developer Survey, many of them are hoping to use things like Copilot, Cody, ChatGPT to write code, to debug code, to learn about a code base. Still, there is not quite high trust yet about AI systems, but about 40% of developers somewhat trust AI. So it is up to us in DevRel to make sure that the AI that we use is being used in a way that's trustworthy and to enable and empower developers. So I know that many devs will groan about chatbots, and I certainly groan about chatbots too. But some AI bots can actually make documentation sites a lot easier to digest. So many times a developer is going to a doc site, they're just trying to solve a problem, right? They're not trying to learn everything all at once. They just have something they want to fix right now while they're coding. So chatbots that are done well on a documentation site that knows the entire docs that are available, they could actually help somebody go quickly if they're being used and deployed in an effective way. Also, there are opportunities to use something like ChatGPT or Bard right in documentation sites or demos today, but helping developers use AI effectively and efficiently is part of our role. We could show how to use AI to lint productively or debug code that doesn't run, or to help a developer document their own code so that they don't forget what it is that code does when they're learning the next new thing. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm available on X, Twitter, and also Blue Sky, LinkedIn, all of those places. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lisa. That was extremely informative. I don't think there is lots of talk going into the chat. So if you've seen those comments, we can probably pick something up there. Let's see. Wow, some really good comments. Talk is amazing. I think strategies like this are going to become so important in this competitive market. So really great comments. Thank you for that, Lisa. I don't see any specific questions, but just a lot of good feedback. This was really great. Thanks.